Hello, Terrell Barnes coming at you, Bloomingdale Township Democratic Organization Chair. It's coming at you about the upcoming DuPage County Democratic Party DuPage County Chair and Vice Chair's race. Provide some historical, in depth on just some emails you might have seen going around. How they don't exist necessarily in a vacuum. They come from a history, something that one of the Democratic operatives, Joanne Tyree, posted. Some emails. We had an angry exchange, but that angry exchange doesn't come in a vacuum. It comes from a history. It comes from a history of bullying. Joanne Tyree has been told multiple times over the last year and a half to not contact me in any way, and that comes from the harassment of backing a different candidate for judge. When I backed John Anderson for judge, and Joanne Tyree was deeply involved with the Linda Davenport, Joe Heddle, Lance Peterson, the three for the third. That was her brainchild. So she really took a backlash, and I posted some of those text messages of how she roped in Ken Mejia Beal and put me in a text message and demanded what I should do in not backing John at the time. Bullied me in other activities with unions at different events. So there's a long history of Joanne Tyree bullying people for not going along with sort of her plan. Wish some of those people would step up and address that, but that email, while terrible, some of the statements do not come in a vacuum, because I have rights to tell someone to leave me alone. And if they continue to violate my rights were violated there by her tagging other people in an email. And let's go back to the email. She was talking about an employment law issue. I raised the idea of having the executive director, being held accountable, possibly getting something in the bylaws where we can have a performance evaluation. I use that word to throw out the discussion. Joanne Tyree raised the idea, or raised the law that contract workers, which Iowana is a contract worker, do not fall under that, because if we evaluate directly their employment, they have to become an employee. You have to put the metrics inside of the contract as they're signing it, and then the executive board was my idea. We can weigh against that and evaluate the executive director and see if they're hitting the benchmarks. I actually knew that law because I went to Loyola School of Law. I went in a program for a Master of Jurisprudence of Business Law and Corporate Governance. So I actually knew the employment law there. So the email is Joanne Tyree, who has no legal background and is not even the vice chair of finance, as she tries to assert she was acting in her capacity as a finance committee member. Joanne Tyree was deputizing herself in that email and weaponizing her whiteness in many ways and in many respects. She was doing that, weaponizing sort of her whiteness and kind of playing on her age, like as if she was being attacked. Joanne Tyree is not a shrinking violet. She's been told that many times over the years to leave me alone and not contact me, and I have rights. And some people assert, well, how else is she supposed to reach out to you? She's not. She has no, control or nothing to say she has to contact me. When a person tells you they wish no contact, and it continues and continues, this is a stalker. I was stalked on an email, stalked in, this is unwanted contact, and that's what happened there. So don't like the language, but I equate it to a domestic violence victim who is telling their victimizer to leave me alone. And if they say it in harsh terms, we do not take it out on that woman for telling the man to stay the fuck away from her. No. And in that sense, I was telling an abuser, an attacker, and Joanne Tyree to stay the fuck away from me. And I have rights to do that. And this all turns on if you feel I have rights, or I have agency as a person to do that or not. Or does, this sort of thing own people. You decide. But as far as the chairs race, the vice chairs race, a lot of this things you see online, the back and forth, is happening because people want to hold on to power. Joanne Tyree, the current executive director, and all of the people around it, because this is a network of people who depend on this, and they depend on this for fundraising. They depend on this for trapping that fundraising into certain areas. Just kind of giving us a hint of who I would vote for in this, but there's an over dependence on that, on trapping and controlling the party in that way. Ask yourself, we sold lots of Kamala Harris signs. Did any of that information get to you in the townships? The information, the people who bought the signs, to possibly place other signs on those same yards? Did the Democratic Party send that to your township chairs to better organize? No, they didn't. They didn't do that. Is information really being shared up and down the chain there? It hasn't. It hasn't. We didn't get information on signs. We were promised deals on stamps for mailing, that sort of thing. The bulk rate. We didn't get that. A lot of our volunteers stepped up and bought stamps and helped us out on that. Townships had to get more innovative in their approach. We did that. And because we did that, now there's this need I get to claw back and to convince us that we should go back. Or to quote Kamala's campaign, we shouldn't go back. The candidates in the race, Diane McGuire, I have respect for her, but I think it's a return to the past in many ways. It's a return to a failed past where all the resources in the county stayed in Naperville, Downers Grove, York, and all of those areas. And it never made it to areas like mine, Bloomingdale Township, never made it to Wayne, never made it to Addison, and the smaller townships never got anything. It became a thing of getting high-value politicians to come to Emmett's in Downers Grove or some banquet hall in Downers Grove and raise money specifically for only women candidates. And I've said that behind the scenes, only. Like, men exist, black people exist, Hispanics, people of color exist, and you will not get that under the current situation. You'll get more of the same. And that more of the same is really a party that it's not really seeking to grow in other ways. And I mean at the local level, even below that county level and then just above. It hasn't happened. It just hasn't. There's this sort of need to want to maximize on the talents of others, but not reward the talents of others. And that will continue if the past is kind of this sort of thing is continued. It's changing more of the same, and we're just not getting change where information truly is being shared. It never does. It never happens. It's really to possibly stop future primaries and anything. It's a situation where, a lot of these folks really want these townships, like mine, the smaller ones, to have enough money for pizzas. And I was told that by a leader within the party. It's enough for pizzas. That's all you need. When certain townships and certain areas have different organizations helping them. And let's talk about these organizations. The split allegiances where indivisible, Democratic, swing state cards, like who's going to be working for who under that system? I just see more of the same. I see more of the same and a few hands gathering all the resources and not allowing anyone else to grow. And when others try to grow independent of them, they become hostile. They become very hostile when others try to grow independent of that and try to grow from a grassroots perspective. They become very, very hostile, and that's what you're seeing online in the bullying. Just want to leave that with you, and as you decide your vote in this upcoming chairs and vice chairs race. There's a lot of hostility. There's a lot of power grabs. There's a lot of trying to aggregate the money from it. And that's important, the money, where it won't find its way up to the smaller townships. It's going to stay with certain ideological things, certain driven things. It's going to turn the party into this one thing, and that is a problem. But you decide. That's the beauty of it all. You decide. You decide why someone has to put private emails out there because they're flailing and grabbing at power. And this is all about power. Meetings called one day before putting out early vote signs. Meetings called when my township, in September 7th, we were marching in a parade. There was a meeting called to consolidate power and try to allow for elected officials above a certain level to be the chair, with the expectation that there wouldn't be enough people there. Meetings called at certain times to drive outcomes. It's sick, and it has to stop. And it won't stop unless you vote to change it. And clearly look at what it is. Clearly look at what it is. I mean, you have people standing before you running who've done nothing for the party. Who've done nothing for the party. And there's a slate that have done absolutely nothing for the party. They built up nothing. They've attempted to call no one. They've tried to create their own leaders within certain townships. And the people who do the work, oh well, it's a game. And you got to see through it. Oh, and I hope you see through that Saturday. Vote them out. Get them out. Have a great one.